When I opened the door, the guests froze. The house they tried to steal now glowed with court papers taped to every window. My daughter's name sat printed on the top line, bold as betrayal. I didn't cry. I adjusted my glasses, lifted the camera, and said, "Let's begin." The phone rang that morning while I was making tea, the kind of call that makes you reach for a chair before you even know why. The voice on the other end was polite, crisp, the estate attorney. He said he was finalizing the coastal property transfer and that my daughter and her husband had left something for me. "They wanted you to have it, not to," he said, like it was a favor instead of an obligation. His tongue stumbled on my last name. I corrected him. He apologized softly, repeated it right. Respect always starts with the name. He asked when I could pick up the key. "Just one," he said, a brass key in a plain envelope. When I saw it at the office later, I noticed it gleamed too bright to be old. Freshly cut, edges sharp, not a hint of tarnish. That detail, it lodged in my chest. My daughter had said the house was under renovation for years. Years. No one renovates that long without finishing or giving up. Someone had been there recently, and whoever they were, they expected to come back. On the drive north, the ocean rolled beside me, a gray sheet under the fall sky. My husband's voice echoed like the tide. Trust patterns, not promises. The pattern was always the same. Messages saying, "Mom, don't worry about that old place," or "It's not safe up there." But safety, I've learned, is a word people use when they want you to stay quiet. I stopped at a gas station for coffee, and the young cashier asked where I was headed. "Mendocino," I said. He laughed. "They've been renovating that place forever." The way he said it, casual and local, left a sting behind my ribs. I drove the final stretch in silence, counting mile markers and excuses. When I turned onto the private road, the car tires rolled over fresh gravel. The air smelled of lemon cleaner, not salt, every bush trimmed, every light fixture new. If this was renovation, it was the neatest one I'd ever seen. My name might have been pushed out of every family group text, but it still sat on that deed, carved deep. At the front step, I saw a slip of paper tucked beneath a delivery mat dated yesterday. "Medical equipment, wellness division." I said out loud, "Wellness my foot." My voice startled a seagull off the roof. I pressed the brass key into the lock. It turned smoother than butter. No grind of disuse. No protest from metal or wood. That house breathed me in like I was late to something. Inside. Everything shined. Countertops, floors, even the air. No tools, no tarps, no paint cans. Just quiet hums and a faint antiseptic scent that crawled up my nose. In the kitchen, 2 calendars hung side by side, color-coded, full of notes, deliveries, scheduled doses. Staff rotation, I opened the fridge. Neatly arranged bottles of pediatric electrolyte drinks lined up next to organic soups. "My daughter didn't have children," I whispered. "Whose are you feeding, baby?" I caught the reflection of a Ring camera blinking red on the counter, recording every move. A drawing lay beside it, crayon lines of a beach and stick figures labeled "Thank you," "Doctor," "E." My daughter's name didn't start with E. Down the hall, a newly painted door stood locked tight, padlock shining, hinges unblemished. I ran my palm across the wall, smooth but low scratches, the kind gurneys leave when turned too fast. I opened the linen closet, sterile packs of gloves, IV tubing, bandages stacked perfectly. This wasn't a remodel, it was a setup. I put on one of those gloves before touching anything else. Old habits from church luncheons. When cleanliness meant respect. My voice trembled, but I steadied it. "Keep your head. Liz, eyes first, mouth later." Then I saw it. A tiny key taped beneath the banister, the same hiding spot where my girl used to sneak Halloween candy. My heart dropped. Some patterns don't die, they rot into something worse. The smaller key fit the padlock. The door opened, the air changed, cool, filtered, sterile. A single bed, monitors, IV poles, a whiteboard with medication times. No sound but machines breathing. My chest tightened. Not from fear, but from knowing. This house wasn't abandoned, it was active. On the nightstand, a tablet blinked to life. A notification glowed. Team check-in, are we clear for tonight? I stood frozen, one hand still holding the door. Whatever this was, my daughter had lied, and now I was standing inside the lie. I stared at the glowing screen, my reflection faint behind the message. Team check-in. Are we clear for tonight? My fingers hovered, trembling only slightly. Then I tapped yes. Sometimes, to learn the truth, you've got to pretend you already know it. The app flashed green and opened a checklist. Vitals, supply restock, waste disposal, the kind of language nurses use, not carpenters. Whoever had been running this renovation had a patient, not a project. I slipped on another glove from my pocket. Old habits die hard. Church ladies know cleanliness saves lives and reputations. I straightened my back and spoke into the mic. You pinged me? The app clicked, and a voice, female, brisk, responded. We're late tonight. Liz, did you restock? My breath stopped. They used my name. I matched her tone, cool and competent. I did. Supplies secure. Everything sanitized. She hummed approval. Good, doctor. You'll be pleased. Drops in 10. The call ended before I could ask a single question. I set the tablet down and looked around the room again. No signs of struggle. No dust, no renovation tools, just control. Every bottle lined up, and every bed rail wiped down. I found a clipboard beside the monitor. 2 handwritings, my daughter's block letters and my son-in-law's crooked loops. Together, they documented every dose, every delivery. You turned my house into your clinic, I whispered. I scrolled through the timestamps. They'd been here 3 nights ago. Then came the doorbell. A steady, practiced ring. Not a neighbor's knock. I peeked through the side window. A man in a uniform stood there, holding a tote bag marked wellness supplies. I opened the door halfway, polite as pie. Evening, ma'am, he said. Drop for the coastal account? I smiled like any tired homeowner. That'd be me. He blinked, confused. You the property manager? No, I said softly. I own the property. He hesitated, scanning my face for permission to believe me. Well, everything's on schedule. You folks run a tight ship. I chuckled the way grandmothers do when something cuts too deep. Clean is cheaper than sorry, baby. His laugh was nervous now. Guess so. Tell doctor, the next batch comes Friday. He left, his shoes crunching the gravel path. I stood there till his taillights disappeared. Tote in hand, inside were sterile packs, gloves, and a billing slip labeled Account Mendocino Life Care, Daniel. Daniel, my son-in-law's last name. The rage came quiet, a pulse in my ears. I opened the hallway tablet again, found the camera feed labeled Ward. It showed folders, one named Family. Inside were still images of my daughter, smiling next to a patient I didn't recognize. Another photo, her husband, holding up a consent form with my forged signature, dated during the church fundraiser, the one where I'd been leading the choir. I felt a strange calm slide in, like a door shutting behind anger. I copied every file, sent them to my phone and cloud. You learn backups the same way you learn recipes, by messing up once. Then a folder caught my eye. Do not notify mother. I didn't cry. I just whispered. Too late. A voicemail pinged on my phone, an old one I'd saved of my husband's laugh. Hey, Liz, don't let fools steal your peace. I breathed through my nose, counted to 4. Peace isn't silence, it's strategy. Before leaving, I wiped every fingerprint, locked the ward door, and placed the tote exactly where he'd left it. Patterns comfort predators. Let them think the pattern holds. Then I sat at the kitchen island and wrote 3 words on a notepad. Sheriff, health board, lawyer, underneath. One more. Tomorrow. As I stood to go, the tablet chimed again. Client arriving in 12 minutes. Headlights flickered beyond the trees. I turned on the porch light, squared my shoulders, and said aloud, Let the truth use the front door. The porch light glowed a soft amber halo, casting my shadow across the steps. I placed my phone face down, but recording, set the tote right where the last man had left it, and whispered the lines I'd practiced. Evening. You're on private property. State your role and reason. Old folks like me plan ahead. Keys in my right pocket. Fob in my left. Back exit clear. I texted the pastor's wife. Porch lights on. That was our code for stay ready. My pulse ticked with the minutes. I breathed slow, in fours, just like my husband taught me when life turned sharp. The night smelled of salt and lemon cleanser. Patterns, not promises, I murmured, this time. I intended to catch the pattern red-handed. Headlights sliced the cypress road. A dark hybrid rolled up and stopped like it belonged here. A man stepped out, scrubs half hidden under a hoodie. Badge flipped backward, shoes quiet as guilt. He tried the door handle before knocking. Confident in habit, I cracked the door. Chain still set. Evening, I said. This is private property. He didn't meet my eyes, just asked. Access to ward? His tone was procedure, not courtesy. Name, I asked. Authorization, doctor? E, he muttered, flashing a laminated pass with no state seal. Private network nonsense. When I said, owner's here, his face twitched. He wasn't expecting a homeowner, just an empty house and a blinking tablet. I stepped out, holding a printed copy of the forged consent form. Read the date, I told him. He squinted. August 19th. Funny, I said. That was the night I baked 12 pies for the church fundraiser. I listed each dessert like witnesses in a lineup. His mouth worked, but no words came. Standing consent covers it, he tried. I smiled thinly. Standing consent doesn't exist in this state without ownership sign-off. My voice stayed neighborly, calm. You can call your supervisor. He did, holding the phone low, whispering. I lifted my own. Red recording light, clear as dawn. He flinched. People who fear daylight don't work in truth. Then he slipped. The patient's name is Alvarez, he said. Not my name, not any name tied to this house. I repeated. Who's the patient of record? He glanced toward the road. Family asked for discretion. I leaned closer. Discretion's for casseroles after a funeral, not for forged papers. His phone chimed. I caught the preview. Arriving early. My stomach tightened. Another car. I texted the pastor's wife again. Choir robes. That meant call for help if I go silent. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me, and pocketed the small ward key, my ground, my rules. A silver sedan eased up the drive. The woman inside looked brittle, eyes ringed with exhaustion. She carried a small cooler and a folder clutched to her chest. She looked past me, searching for the handler. Evening. Baby, I said gently. Who told you to come here? Her shoulders sagged at that word, baby. They said cash, no questions. Doctor's private. Cheaper at night. I guided her to the porch chair, offered bottled water. No one touches you tonight without real credentials. I promised. She nodded, tears trembling but unshed. My fury steadied. It wasn't wild, it was surgical. Behind her, the handler's phone buzzed again. Through the window glass, I saw the reflection. Use back entrance, mom at front, and that word mom was my daughter's tell. He lied, said it was traffic, but the tone matched my tablet's earlier ping. I let my words cut clean. There's no back entrance tonight. There's the sheriff for daylight paperwork. He hesitated, jaw tight, then turned and backed toward his car. I spoke the license digits out loud for my recording. His tires spat gravel and vanished down the road. I relocked the ward, photographed the padlock, and logged everything in my notes. Then I called the county nurse hotline. Speaker on. Possible unlicensed practice, I said evenly. The nurse's tone sharpened. Stay on the line, ma'am. I wrapped a throw blanket around the woman's shoulders. You're safe for the next 5 minutes. I told her. Then we drive. The porch light stayed burning as the fog thickened. My phone vibrated. A welfare check confirmed en route. I gathered the forged consent, the delivery slip, and my keys. As I helped the woman to my car, a glow flickered through the house window. The tablet had come alive again. Night supervisor en route. 9 minutes. The dashboard clock read 10:54 p.m. As I pulled onto Highway 1, hazard lights flashing. 9 minutes, I said aloud, making sure the recorder caught every word. We've got time. The woman beside me clutched her chest, shaky but breathing. I handed her my church fan, blue plastic with FaithWorks peeling on the handle. In through your nose. Baby, slow and steady. You're safe now. Her voice trembled. They said, no hospitals. I kept my tone calm, solid. They said wrong. On speaker. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line, gave my name, address, and a short version of hell. Possible unlicensed medical procedure at my home. I hit send on the forged consent PDF to my email with the subject line, report, time stamped, 9 minutes. Honey, I've cooked grits longer, I muttered. They won't beat me home. The urgent care lights glowed like a beacon through fog. Inside, I told the triage nurse, I'm the property owner. Please log chain of custody for the folder and cooler. She nodded. Professional calm. While they took vitals, I kept quiet. No speculation, just facts. When the nurse returned, I asked for a visit summary printout. Paper beats memory. My generation learned that the hard way. Please include, I said. Patient believed she was meeting a private night doctor at a residence. She jotted it down without blinking. I handed her the handler's license plate digits. We've seen this before, she said, voice low. I texted the pastor's wife. Safe. Urgent care. Keep line warm. The woman gripped my hand, whispering, Thank you. I smiled gently. We take care of strangers before they become family. My phone buzzed again. A push alert. Night supervisor en route. I opened the metadata. Sender ID matched my daughter's shared iCloud alias, the same one tied to her cinnamon roll photos. They didn't just sneak, I whispered. They synced. Betrayal wasn't emotional now. It was technical. I dictated to myself. Shared cloud link to daughter. Motive probable. Billing or laundering. I saved it to PDF. Paper trail. Digital edition. My anger cooled to strategy. They used my family cloud to move strangers through my home. Fine. That cloud was now evidence. Subpoena ready. Then came another ping. HOA alert. New footage available. Side gate motion 10:47 p.m. I opened the link. The clips showed nights stacked like lies. Same sedan, same handler, once even a gurney. I felt my stomach twist, but my voice stayed flat as I read each timestamp out loud for the recorder. I forwarded them to a folder labeled House Used as Site, Exhibit A. Then I emailed the HOA manager. Secure originals, owner requests legal hold. Well, I added, if it ain't in writing, it ain't real. If it's on video, it's gospel. When the nurse returned, her eyes were sharper. We've seen flyers. Night doctor, cash discount, same supplies. She added a note for adult protective services. House used for off-site infusion. Owner barred during use. She printed and handed it over. You just stopped something ugly. Ma'am? I slipped it into my tote. We don't let shadows stay shadows. Outside, under the humming streetlight, I sent 2 more emails. One to the app's support, preserve data pending legal action, and one to the property manager, copied to my late husband's union clinic. Paper trails don't sleep. I called dispatch. They confirmed deputies en route. If entry's forced, authorize inspection, Ma, I said. My car's GPS rerouted to home. Calm voice, steel heart. Round trip. Then statements. When we arrived, a patrol SUV idled by the gate. Porch lights still burned steady. My digital eyes watching through the feed. The deputy greeted me. Welfare call came from your church contact, he said. My network held. Bless them. We walked to the back fence, new padlock gleaming where none should be. I showed him the photo from earlier. Different lock. Different night. He radioed for backup. I signed a property interference form on the trunk of his cruiser, pen scratching in rhythm with my pulse. I looked him dead in the eye. If you're bold enough to change my lock, you're bold enough to face a judge. The radio crackled. Be advised. Black SUV just turned into the alley. 2 occupants in scrubs. The deputy parked his cruiser sideways across the narrow alley. Headlights painting the fence, silver. I stood in the doorway. Porch light behind me. Voice steady. No sneaking, not tonight. 2 people stepped out of the black SUV. Scrub tops under their coats, trying too hard to look harmless. We're here for the appointment, one said with a fake smile. I crossed my arms. With who? The deceased? My tone made the deputy glance my way. Amused but alert, I told them clearly. Owner present, welfare check in progress. State your full names for my notes. The deputy tapped his body cam and nodded. I spoke for my own recorder. Timestamp: 11:48 p.m. 2 unidentified individuals claiming appointment. They held out a clipboard with a QR code. Sweetheart, I said, if your credentials live only on a QR code, the law won't find them when it counts. The deputy scanned it with his tablet. The screen blinked, then showed a dead Google form tied to a shared iCloud alias. I felt my stomach tighten. Same alias my daughter used for her renovation updates. The deputy frowned and radioed dispatch. Possible fraud chain, loop fraud unit. I leaned closer. Case number, please, I said, and repeated it into my phone's memo. Another patrol car pulled up. Boxing the SUV in, the scrub's smiles cracked. I snapped a screenshot of the code and emailed it to myself, labeling it alias link, continuity to prior exhibits. Years of teaching Sunday school taught me patience. Tonight, I weaponized it. Screens change, paper remains, I murmured. Print it, sign it, date it. That's how we win. The HOA manager arrived, flustered and winded, clutching a folder. We've had noise complaints. Contractors after midnight, he admitted. No permits displayed. I nodded. Say that on camera. He did. Voice shaking. Then he added, your son-in-law emailed me last year, asked for backgate clearance for medical deliveries during remodel. My breath froze. That wording matches the app logs, I said quietly. The manager blinked. Guess it does. I requested a written evidence hold. He agreed. Forwarding the originals to my Exhibit A thread, I looked right at the deputy. They told me it was plaster dust. It was fentanyl patches and IV bags. The deputy asked about the cooler. I opened it carefully, presenting the urgent care intake note. Documented chain of custody, I said. Inside the lid, tiny serial numbers etched into the plastic gleamed under the porch light. I read them aloud while photographing each one. Dispatch confirmed one batch flagged in a state advisory. Unlicensed infusions, the deputy muttered. My heart didn't race. It steadied. They didn't just use my house, I said, voice low. They wore my name like a fake badge, I asked him to note. Owner produced medical documentation and serials. He typed it exactly. If they were bold enough to break laws in daylight language, I added, they can face daylight consequences. A phone buzzed in one scrub pocket. The deputy retrieved it, screen still lit. An auto text read, 9:45 delivery to my address, driver paid. Another message followed, client scheduled by Dan, discount rate. Dan, my son-in-law, dead 3 years now. My chest ached, but I stood straight. They built a business on my silence, I told the deputy. Record that thread, note posthumous scheduling. The scrubs claimed they just follow the system. So do I said. It's called the law. Pressure cracked them. One began to talk, voice breaking under the deputy's steady questions. I opened my phone, typed a formal cease and desist, trespass notice, owner to every alias tied to the app, attached QR screenshots, serials, HOA complaints, urgent care summary, clean, chronological, undeniable. I called my husband's old union lawyer, left a voicemail. Probate counsel needed, emergency injunction on estate assets, linked to unlicensed use. My tone didn't shake. I asked the deputy to include owner barred from residence under false renovation pretext. Then, softer, to myself. If you write it down, you make a future. If they wrote lies, mine will outwrite theirs. The woman I'd helped earlier called, voice steady now. I'm okay, she said. Relief loosened my chest. The pastor's wife arrived, stood beside me like a wall of quiet strength. The deputy let me enter the house. We checked each room, no fresh mess, just that new lock. I took photos, documented every drawer, every wrapper, no speeches, no drama. Just truth logged in ink and time. The deputy sealed evidence. The night hummed low with tension. My phone lit with a calendar alert I'd never created. 9:45 a.m., walkthrough with inspector, host shared family alias. Morning sunlight cut through the fog like it had something to prove. I'd barely slept. By 7, my printer hummed. QR screenshots, serial numbers, HOA complaints, each page marked with yellow sticky tabs labeled Exhibit B through E. I laid them in order on the dining table beside my coffee. The smell of toner mixed with determination. I called probate counsel first thing. Draft injunction ready. They promised a noon filing window. I texted the deputy, forwarding the 9:45 a.m. alert my daughter's alias had scheduled. Be here, Guy, I wrote. Bring presents, not permission. Then I taped a no trespass owner present notice to the glass door, synced the porch cam, and activated the audio alert that chirped. All visitors recorded. Before 9, the pastor's wife and the HOA manager arrived. Quiet, firm witnesses. I smiled thinly. If you can't lift heavy, I said, lift the pen. Paperwork moves mountains. At 9:42, a county inspector stepped out of his truck, scanning his tablet. Says the host is Ward Family Renovations. I showed my ID. That's me, widow of the owner, still breathing, still present. His brow creased. Then who scheduled this? I raised my phone camera. Please narrate date, time, scheduler, and reason for visit. He obliged. Professional, but uneasy. No permits for medical or remodeling work popped up in his records. He repeated it for the deputy's body cam when the patrol car arrived. I handed him the cease and desist and evidence stack from last night. You'll find zoning, medical, and licensing violations right there. A white van rolled in, driver claiming cabinetry inspection. The work order read, oxygen line concealment. The inspector froze. Stay outside, he ordered. The deputy's hand rested lightly on his belt. The air tightened. Inside. I logged into my Wi-Fi admin page, projecting it on the TV. See that? I said, pointing at a device labeled Clinic Hub. Active for 18 months, every night of so-called renovation. The inspector traced capped wall stubs behind the pantry. That's not cabinetry. Ma'am, that's medical-grade plumbing. The HOA manager chimed in. We warned them 3 times about night work. He sent complaint PDFs to the case email thread while I forwarded bank alerts showing microtransfers titled Wellness I-4. The sender? The same alias that booked this inspection. I spoke calmly. If the story keeps repeating, it's not confusion, it's choreography. A sleek sedan pulled up next, and out came a man in a navy suit. Business partner, he said smoothly. We're ensuring continuity of care. His cologne hit before his lies did. He flashed a laminated letter signed by my deceased son-in-law, time-stamped 6 months after the funeral. The inspector's eyes hardened. That's fraud, the partner smirked. It's just paperwork, ma'am. I stepped closer. So is a warrant. He tried to wheel in a bio-waste bin. I blocked the threshold. Not in my house. The deputy moved between us. I demanded chain of custody photos of the bin's seal numbers. The inspector took them. Labeling medical waste on residential property, the partner's jaw trembled. Sir, I told him evenly, your paperwork is loud. Unfortunately, the law reads louder. My phone buzzed. Counsel on speaker confirmed the injunction window. Get the inspector's signature for field verification. She said. He signed. I scrolled through Zelle payments, nicknames that matched the alias, dates aligning with HOA noise complaints, tax, health, zoning, all violated. The inspector summarized. The deputy logged, owner barred under false renovation pretext for profit. I drafted freeze letters to every payment platform, attaching exhibits and the case number. The partner hissed. You can't shut this down. Watch me, I said. Then watch a judge do it again. The inspector tapped the pantry wall, hollow. He unscrewed a vent grill and pulled out a small fireproof pouch. Inside lay a notarized letter from my late husband, dated months before his passing. Any change of use requires my wife's written consent alone. My throat tightened. A thumb drive labeled Walk Through held footage of my son-in-law staging fittings with 2 of these men. The letter ended. This home is my wife's clarity when voices lie, I whispered. You knew I'd need this. The partner bolted, the deputy caught him mid-step. The inspector looked at me. Ma'am, with this letter and footage, we're done here. By noon. Council confirmed court upload and provisional docket. I emailed the app operator. Cease operations. Include the letter and field notes. CC County Council. The HOA posted a compliance tag at my gate. Any future use would trigger fines. As the patrol cars rolled off, the inspector shook my hand. You're more prepared than most agencies, I smiled faintly. When they steal your peace, you learn the paperwork. Then, as I turned back inside, a white van rounded the corner, marked bio-waste removal. It slowed in front of my house, driver waving a clipboard. My stomach clenched. I pressed my palm to the pantry wall and whispered, "Not today." The van idled by the curb, its engine grumbling against the ocean wind. I stepped out with my phone already recording. "You're on camera," I told the driver. Calm but precise. His clipboard trembled when I held up the notarized letter. My husband's final protection. "This home can't be used without my written consent," I read aloud. "Now. Show me who sent you." He pointed to a release form, forged with the alias, timestamped 2 months after my son-in-law's death. I called the deputy on speaker. "Hold your position," the deputy ordered, voice cutting through static. The driver froze. I asked for the seal numbers on every container, one by one. I photographed the labels while he muttered excuses. "Honey," I said, not unkindly, "I may be retired, but my pen still works just fine." Inside, I turned proof into motion. I emailed the county health officer the inspector's memo, the forged release, and the notarized letter. My lawyer filed the restraining order within minutes. Alias and clinic operator named outright. Payment platforms confirmed freeze requests. Each reply tagged with ticket numbers I logged on an evidence sheet. HOA pushed out a bulletin banning all contractor entries without my signature. By one. I'd hired a locksmith and a security team. Smart lock codes changed. Porch cams synced. Access logs preserved. Out front. The deputy leaned against his cruiser and told the driver, "If you roll, I roll behind you." The man stayed put, gripping the wheel like it was a prayer bead. Neighbors began to gather at the fence. The HOA manager explained in simple terms. "Unlicensed medical use. No permit." I didn't add commentary. A reporter asked for a statement. I said, "Court first. Truth on paper, then words." Across the street, the so-called partner paced, phone pressed to his ear. I zoomed in and streamed his movements to my private evidence cloud. The pastor's wife brought bottled water, promising hot meals later. Calm was contagious when you practiced it. The inspector's field summary arrived by email. I saved it under Public Record Verified. I didn't need to shout. "We don't have to raise our voices," I told the pastor's wife. "The file's already talking." After they dispersed, I sat on the porch steps, reading my husband's words again. "This home is my wife's clarity when voices lie." The paper trembled, not from wind, but from the weight of being right too late. I thought of my daughter's last call, the polite distance, the way she said "Mom" like a formality. I refused to drown in regret. I opened my phone's recorder. "No gossip," I said evenly. "Here are the documents. Read before you speak." I texted my niece the lawyer's contact. If anyone wanted answers, they could get them under oath. No more kitchen table apologies. Everything would live in daylight now. By mid-afternoon, my lawyer called back. "Judge approved the TRO. Immediate effect." I printed the order, still warm from the tray. I walked it straight to the van driver. "This," I said, handing him both the paper and the pen, "means you stop." The deputy stood beside me as the driver radioed his supervisor, muttering, "We're pulling out." Counsel confirmed a full hearing in 72 hours. I began drafting the witness list, HOA, inspector, deputy, timestamps, court orders, I told the deputy quietly, are like seatbelts, ugly to argue with after the crash. I spent the next hour tracing every dollar that touched this scheme. The micropayments matched midnight deliveries like stars on a cursed constellation. I built a one-page exhibit titled The Story of Money, lines and arrows from QR scans to deposits. From deposits to vans, every cent leaves footprints, I murmured. My bank's fraud team tagged the alias as deceased and frozen. The pipe was sealed. By late afternoon, locksmiths finished their work. I handed over cookies as they left, relabeled the new keys, reset every digital code. I opened the blinds wide to the sea. The light felt earned. I boxed the medical waste for county pickup, each tag signed under chain of custody protocol. Then I set the table. 3 plates for the pastor's wife, the HOA manager, and myself. We're okay, I wrote in my church statement. We chose paper over panic. No fire sale, no fear. This home would stay mine until I decided otherwise. Just as I cleared the dishes, my phone chimed. Calendar invite, Founders Wellness Gala, tonight 7 p.m. at my address. The flyer sparkled on the screen, showing my living room staged under fake banners. Guest list, 60 names, caterer on the way. I forwarded it to my lawyer and the deputy. Notify them all, TRO in effect. Outside. A delivery truck turned the corner, headlights bright in the fog. I placed the notarized letter on the entry table, hit record on every camera, and waited by the door. If they booked a gala in my name, I said, steady as the tide, they can attend a hearing in theirs. By dusk, my porch was dressed like a courtroom. I taped the TRO to the glass, clipped the notarized letter beneath it, and laid the county memo where the sun caught the seal. Guests arrived early. Heels on gravel, perfume cutting through salt air. Evening. Y'all, I said, steady but kind. Quick read before you step on my floor. My tone carried weight, the kind every grandmother perfects. Cameras rolled, porch light bright as Judgment Day. The HOA manager held a vendor list, each name highlighted for service of notice. The deputy parked close, cruiser silent but ready. Across the street, the so-called partner lingered, phone glued to his ear. I noted the time, his shoes, his nerves. Nothing escaped my frame tonight. When the crowd settled, I began. I'm the titled owner, I said. This house hasn't hosted medicine, miracles, or mess since it was built. It's not licensed, it's not rented, and it's not for sale. I held up the pantry letter, the final line glinting under the light. This home is my wife's clarity when voices lie. I explained how permits work, how consent defines ownership, how public health laws keep families safe. No theatrics, just plain sense. A few guests looked away, embarrassed. Some texted their +1s. We're leaving. I didn't raise my voice. We're not yelling. I told them. We're reading. The partner finally crossed the street, Tuck's jacket flapping in the wind. I'm the founding director, he declared, flashing a laminated badge so thin it might have come from a printer at the gas station. The deputy compared the name to the TRO. Sir, step back, he warned. I placed the clipboard under the porch camera. Sign for receipt, director, I said. He refused. The deputy noted the refusal, voice sharp as a gavel. The HOA manager produced records, months of contractor entries under the alias, timestamps syncing with my own footage. I handed the deputy a forged waste release form, seal numbers matching last night's photos. Sweat gathered at the man's collar. The deputy radioed for backup and called fraud and health code units. The director stared at me, silent for the first time. I turned to the crowd and tapped my phone. The portable monitor flickered to life, playing the Wellness Gala e-flyer, my living room plastered with their logo. Then came my montage, QR codes turning into ledgers, ledgers into delivery schedules, deliveries into HOA complaints. Last frame, the pantry letter. My husband's handwriting steady as truth. The guests gasped. A few vendors shut their van doors, texting, "Job canceled, owner objection." The deputy spoke clearly for his report. Under the court's temporary restraining order, this event is terminated. I added softly. Paper first, party never. The deputy read the TRO aloud to the partner and noted his silence as acknowledgement. Vendors signed their one-page notices. Each received a hotline number for verification. The caterer asked if the food could go to charity. Church hall's fine, I said, scribbling a chain of custody note. The locksmith looped a temporary chain through the gate while the security tech reset access codes. The reporter from town appeared near the fence, notebook raised. No statement tonight, I told her. We obeyed the court and the code. The ocean took over the soundtrack, waves hitting rocks where applause should have been. At 8, when my lawyer's email pinged, County enforcement confirmed a formal action. HOA set an emergency vote to mandate on-site owner consent for private events. The alias's attorney sent an email calling it all a misunderstanding. I replied with 2 words. See you. The church treasurer texted. Foods received. Bless you for redirecting. I smiled. Small but real. Justice didn't need fireworks, just receipts. Later, I walked through the house with my phone camera, logging every room, evidence sealed, memories left untouched, in the kitchen. I brewed tea and spread the pantry letter beside it. My husband's signature felt alive under my fingers, I whispered. We held it, love. We held it right. I decided not to sell. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I called the security company to rename the Wi-Fi Clarity House. Then texted my niece. No more family group arguments. If anyone wants answers, let them come to court. Boundaries. Like furniture. Only help if you use them. Near 10. The deputy received a call. The alias was being cited for fraud and unlicensed activity. My lawyer forwarded a draft stipulation. Restitution pending. HOA issued an apology to all residents. I sent one comm group text to the extended family with a download link to every exhibit. No commentary, just facts. Then I turned off the porch light. Feeling the quiet settle deep. That's when an envelope slid under the door, thick and official. The return address read, Probate Court, Contested Filing. I picked it up, smiled at the weight of it, and said to the empty hallway, All right then, let's read. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. Inside, one line was circled in red, Petitioner, your daughter. My breath caught mid-step. Outside, a car engine idled in the dark, headlights cutting through the fog toward my porch, I whispered. So she's coming back. But for what?